Well, hello there, I'm Kaz. You know, there's a lot of people out there that say that Squaresoft died when they merged with rival company Enix to become the company we know now today as Square Enix, and I've never really understood why. After all, what really changed once they merged? Dragon Quest and Final Fantasy are no longer rivals, and that's about it. But speaking of Dragon Quest, we're going to be looking at the newest entry in the series, Dragon Quest IX, crafted by the talented studio, Level 5. Cue the new intro! Level 5 is one of the few new Japanese studios in recent years to be both critically and commercially successful. They started off with Dark Cloud, a great launch window game for the PS2 in 2001, and followed up with the sequel called Dark Chronicles 2 years later. Due to their impressive work, they were handed the rights to the Dragon Quest series for the 8th installment. Since then, they've been developing for the handhelds, mainly with the little series you may have heard of, Professor Layton.
What is this madness?
This is a studio you give your franchise to. Not Call of Duty and Space Mediocrity, but I digress. Now, originally this was going to be a toss-up between Dragon Quest 4 and 5, but I've gotten quite a few requests to do Dragon Quest 9. I hope you guys are happy. Instead of talking about Talon or that wicked witch of a wife Priscilla, we're going to talk about fruit. And angels. Yep, it's that kind of title. Anyway, this is the second of the Dragon Quest titles made by Level 5. Is it as good as Journey of the Cursed King, or should we wait for the third time to be the charm? Let's dive right in. Dragon Quest IX is really not too different from other Dragon Quest games. Simple turn-based combat, classes, the works. So there's really not a whole lot to talk about as far as gameplay mechanics go. So why is this game so appealing then? One word: multiplayer. And customization helps too, I guess. You're given a ton of options with the amount of items and customization that you get from your classes, but the multiplayer is the biggest selling point. However, I think there's something that needs to be said about introducing multiplayer into a relatively old-school RPG series. To me, the multiplayer seems like a test to see if it would make the multiplayer work for Dragon Quest X. A test run, if you will, and a very successful one considering that it sold over 1 million in North America alone. And, to be honest, the multiplayer works really well. Getting together a bunch of your friends together to beat a tough enemy, help gather items for a side quest, or just to have a good time messing around in the world. It's simply a blast. Top that off with a large amount of classes and customizable appearances, and you've got a game that's well worth the money. Dragon Quest IX is a lootin' good old-fashioned RPG time. There's some minor annoyances, like the constant changing with your classes involving more grinding, the infamous friend code, but if you're playing local multiplayer, you probably won't have these problems. If you are playing by yourself, you are going to have the only problem that this game has. By yourself, this game is a chore. Why? Well, the same reason I haven't mentioned the story yet. It's executed terribly. You're a Celestial who gets stripped of his wings and sent down to the Mortal Realm by an unknown force. From there you set out on an adventure in order to revive yourself to your former angelic state. It's actually kind of interesting for the narrative's premise, but its execution is terrible. Characters with personalities are few and far between, and those with any are incredibly annoying. Like that fairy sidekick. I hated that fairy sidekick. Flipping this and flipping that. I'll flip you something. Now, like I said before, I don't need every game to tell me a story, but this is Dragon Quest we're talking about. They have some of the best stories in gaming. They're charming, they're funny, they have great characters. This game has none of that. And don't give me that excuse, oh, use your imagination. If I want to use my imagination, I'm going to play a board game. If not, then I'm going to play a video game. Let the imagination be for the creators. It's pretty obvious that story came second after the gameplay, but coming from Level 5 of all people, the story is incredibly bland and hugely disappointing. But anyway, let's just get on to the presentation, shall we? Presentation-wise, the game is pretty good. From a graphics perspective, the game has impressive 3D models for characters and enemies, and diversity due to customization, though the 3D characters stick out among the many decent 2D sprites in towns. It makes you just wonder why all of the characters weren't just done in 3D, but I digress. The music and sound effects are pure Dragon Quest, and match the series style, but with a more refreshing style than before. It's an all-around good-looking and sounding game. There's not too much to say about it, and not too much to complain about. I'll be 100% honest, I was never really that much into Dragon Quest. In fact, it's one of my least favorite of the Square Enix franchises, but to be fair, Dragon Quest IX was pretty well done. It's a good game. But if I had to recommend it, I'd recommend it mainly to people who have a lot of friends who have this game. if not people who are new to the series. For those of you that want a better Dragon Quest experience, I'd recommend Dragon Quest 4 and 5. They're all around superior games, and they're cheaper. This game gives you a lot for your money, but all it really was a successful experiment for Dragon Quest X. Come on, let's be honest, why else would they put multiplayer in this? Until next time, game on, my friends. It's time.